This happened to me yesterday. There it goes. It's on now.
Did you have to like start the whole thing? Did you have to like press a different button?
Yeah, it's because I had that introduction on. So,
Oh, and then you have to turn the intro off.
and then you had to. So live and learn.
Oh,
Joe.
that's all right. It happens. Hold on, I'm trying to listen right now. I don't hear anything.
Well, it takes a couple seconds, but it should be on now. Nothing.
No.
Should be.
Nada.
It says it's on. It says it's streaming. Says it is.
Oh.
There it is. Is that on?
Oh yeah, we're good now.
Yeah, live and learn. So let me. Episode 2. See, now by episode 4, I'll have this all
Yeah.
down. I don't. So I'll have it all down. So let me show you what the board looks
Tax
like.
Wars,
This is the
episode
board.
2.
This is the board.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. So anyway, let me kind of go breeze through this
So
again.
everybody who's tuning in, we were just talking about the acted
It's the Shuttered Venue Grant.
the Shuttered Venue Grant. So anybody out there who's just tuning in or was trying to get some sound and it wasn't working, what we're talking about is the Shuttered Venue Grant, which is giving money, to say it lightly,
It's a grant.
to businesses, restaurants that are.
Let me go through it again.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Let me go
yeah.
through the list. Here's a shuttered venue. Who can apply? Well, here it is. Live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organizations, museum operators, motion picture theater operators, like the motion picture theater I'm in right now, and talent representatives. Again, they were hit the hardest. I mean, everybody talks about restaurants and how hard they were, and they were hit hard. I mean, no doubt about it that they were hit hard. But they still could have carry out. Some restaurants still did well. But I could tell you that if you had a movie theater, you weren't having anybody in. Nobody came in. You weren't making any money. And so these are, if you're
drive-in movies.
I don't know if they were even having.
They kind of came back.
Did they?
Yeah, the one in McHenry did.
Did it?
It was popping.
Is that right?
It's the only way you could have watched movies. You couldn't leave your car.
Well, that makes sense, I guess.
Let's all go to the lobby. Wait.
I like that.
Can we bring our own popcorn? No, but you have to crack it. The window.
That's how they make all their money. So they
they
still lost a lot of money, I guess. Maybe you could order and they would bring it to your car or something. I don't know. I wasn't out there.
With the mask.
I haven't been to a drive-in movie theaters for some time. They had the one in Wheeling that when I was a kid we used to go to, the Twin Drive-In.
Oh, I've been to that one.
The Twin Drive-In.
When I was a kid.
And then,
was that the one?
Probably your dad always went out there, so we hung out there when we were in high
Saw
school.
the Lion King there, I believe.
Is that right? It's still open then. That's at Pewaukee. Now it's part of Pewaukee. It was always part of Pewaukee, but it's kind of changed.
I got to wear my footy pajamas.
I'm sure. Was that last week?
Yeah. They're comfortable, darn it.
Okay, so let me go back to this okay, so I talked about the grant amount. You can get up to $10 million, or $5 million if you have one location. But if you have multiple locations, you get $10 million. And it says for an eligible entity in operation on January 1st, 2019, so they can have something to compare it to. Grants will be for an amount equal to 45% of their 2019 gross earned revenue, or $10 million, whichever is less. So 45% of revenue, and that's probably greater than the profit.
Wow.
So at least there's going to be some money. It beats a sharp stick in the eye, as I say. So here's what I was talking about earlier. The first priorities: entities that suffered a 90% or greater gross revenue loss between April 2020 through December 2020 due to COVID. They go first in the first 14 days. The second priority: entities that suffered a 70% or greater gross revenue loss between April 2020 through December 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic. The third priority: entities that suffered a 25% or greater earned revenue loss between one quarter of 2019 and the corresponding quarter of 2020. And then the supplemental, and I think this is important. Recipients of first, second, and third priority round awards who suffered a 70% or greater revenue loss for the most recent calendar quarter as of April 1st, 2021. So after they go through everybody, if there's money left and you've lost in this year, they'll replace that money too. So this is important again because how else are you going to recover from these things? How are we going to make things right? How are we going to get things to back to normal? Well, it's not going to do you any good if they open. I don't know how many businesses can lose a whole year of income and still function, right? And still make it. I don't know, because these venues they're large. You generally large buildings. That means that there's large rent or mortgage or property taxes or property taxes. And if you're not making any money, the government's not they're not waiting, right? They want their taxes. And so you don't pay, they're taking it. If you have a landlord and they want to get paid, they got to get paid too. So
that's what our guest this week on the Trust Radio Network was talking about.
That's kind of what let's talk a little bit about that because that we had a guest on our show this weekend. His name was Dick Barr, and he's on the board at Lake County, and he brought up something that there's a fund here in Lake County for renters, tenants, and if they can pay up to 12 months of your rent. All you have to do is apply. But they're having problems with people applying. Nobody knows about it. So that's why it looks like it's my job, I think, to get this information out, to tell people about it. Because, there's all this money available, but if nobody applies for it, it'll go to waste. A lot of the PPP money in the second round was never claimed. Nobody, there's people out there hurting, and they just don't think that they qualify, when in fact they do. For instance, in the PPP program, a lot of people who are independent contractors, they didn't know that money was there for them, but it was. And so they didn't apply and they didn't get it. Here's the good news. You could still apply for it. If you're hearing my voice now and I'm telling you something you didn't know, go apply for the PPP loan. You have until the end of May, even for the first round. And if you get to the first round, get to the second round. There's 2 rounds of PPP programs that you might qualify for. So you don't know unless you apply. One of the good parts about that PPP program, and probably this one, is that it's not that hard you don't need an accountant or a lawyer. I hate to say that, but it's true. You don't need that to apply. Many banks will help you. I know my bank, I use the U.S. Bank. They were very helpful. They had a portal. If there was any questions, you could talk to somebody. When it was time, they needed more information. They contacted you, say, hey, we need this, we need that, we need the other thing, and then you provided it. And then and they walked you through the process. So if you're an independent contractor, a small business person, and you don't think that you qualified for the PPP program, get it. Go get it. So, I have a little hot dog stand. Some people make a living on their hot dog stands. For instance, the guy that's at Home Depot, right? What about him?
In Deerfield, there's
in anywhere.
People who are listening, right?
No, almost every Home Depot has it.
Really?
Yeah, almost every Home Depot has a hot dog.
Did you know also? Sorry, I know this is really off topic, but did you know IKEA also sells Swedish meatballs?
I did not know that.
I was told
frozen
that you can get them frozen, but they also have like a salad bar. You can get them.
Did not.
And I hear that they are unbelievable.
They're Swedish.
I didn't know this. So I do apologize.
I didn't know that either. But I would say that IKEA, but they have probably independent contractors that do that, right? IKEA is probably not the one running that.
No. Those are IKEA Swedish meatballs.
No, they might be, but they probably have an independent contractor who's running it, right? Who's heating up the meatballs and hiring the people and everything. Probably. I don't know this because that's the first I'm hearing about the Swedish meatballs. But I can tell you that most...
Or like the Home Depot hot dog guy.
Most Home Depots have a hot dog guy. And
have you been to a Home Depot in other states?
Well, I knew someone in Florida that had that helped at a hot dog stand, and he knew a guy who had a whole string of them. He's one guy had 4 or 5 of them in 4 or 5 different Home Depots, and so it must be their business model that they have the hot dog stands.
Makes a lot of sense because you're a working guy or a working gal and you're getting all of your supplies
But
during
here-
the day, and you got to get something to eat.
But here, the PPP program, you're going to go with the restaurant revitalization fund here. You're going to qualify for the restaurant revitalization. They closed down the hot dog stand, so he didn't make any money, right? He was closed. Yeah, Home Depot was open, making gobs of money. See, gobs, that's a technical term, Jim, means a lot.
Oh,
Gobs of money.
I'm writing that down. I'm sorry.
So they were making gobs of money, but the hot dog guy was closed. He couldn't make any money. So anyway, that person there probably qualifies for the PPP and will qualify for this restaurant revitalization. So, get in, because one of the things about the restaurant revitalization, it's the difference between 2019 and 2020, less any PPP money you get. So I guess if I don't apply for that and I go for the restaurant revitalization, I'll get that money anyway, right? In a different form. So that might make sense, not even to apply for the PPP, go right for the restaurant revitalization fund and get the full amount that's out
Go
there.
right for the jugular.
You get the most money you can.
Yes.
It just makes sense. Again, we are now, as our friend Dick Barr was telling us last week, I mean, on our show on Saturday, that because a lot of the tenants were not applying for this money and they had the money set aside waiting for them, and it's going to be helpful for landowners in Lake County, they changed the rules and now allow the landlords to apply for the tenants. So the landlords are going to say, hey, I have tenants who haven't paid me in a year. I'll apply for the money. They'll pay me, and I won't have to sue you for that money, because that's what's going to happen at the end of all this. You think they're going to just walk away and not pay anybody. You're probably mistaken. These landlords are going to sue you, right? And they're going to try to get their money. Now, you might have to file bankruptcy, but they're going to try to get their money.
I know I'm allergic to overspending too.
Well, I think the government's overspending, but again, I could take a political stand and say, hey, don't go for the money.
Oh yeah, I mean you could take a moral stand and say, hey, why
This
would
is
I do
wrong.
This is stupid and
Yeah.
wrong. But at the end of the day, this money's there available for you. Don't suffer in
Silence.
silence.
Don't suffer in silence.
Take a stand. Call to action.
I agree with that. Call to action. See, that's the name of the show. That's why I wanted to name this podcast Call to Action, because we need to take action if you want to respond, if you want to recover from this event that we've had, the COVID virus. And again, it's not even the virus; it's the economic. We're just now seeing the economic impact of this, right? All the prices are going through the roof. Why are they going through the roof now? Because we're just seeing the impact when they closed down the sawmills and they didn't make they haven't made any wood, so all the wood prices are going
Well,
up.
it's not even that. It's the offshore, how they stopped the.
Well, that too, they didn't-
backup of ships.
Well, they didn't have anybody on the dock to unload them.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just all.
Well, we
this
are essential.
material.
So again, this stuff became it doesn't you don't see this stuff right away. It does take some time to see the impact.
I always liken it like you're on a boat, right? And you're on this boat and you see the waves created from the wake. That's what they call the waves from the boat as a wake. And you
Thanks,
just
Jim.
look at and you're just waiting to see the waves wash up on the shore, right? We're speeding ahead. We don't really know if we're creating a large wake or not in a no-wake zone. Now it looks like we're creating a large wake. Looks like it's crashing over the rocks. Could be worse. Who knew 60 nautical miles per hour through a no-wake zone is going to create large waves? I
Okay.
did not know that.
So I talked about. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about the 4 steps here, just briefly, about full financial recovery. Right. The first step is protect what you have. Right. And so I've helped some people early on. They thought, well, maybe I'm going to go bankrupt, and so you have to change the deed in your property, move things around, make sure what you have, you're protected. Okay, and this is right. So if I have to go under, that they're not going to take everything I own. This is important. Okay, the second step, focus your resources on what the most important thing is. And that's what we talked about, this forbearance a lot, these forbearance agreements. Now, a lot of people, we thought that this might be a couple of months, 2 months, 3 months before before we got back together, we got back to normal, and now it's 12 months later. So a lot of people have been on a forbearance for 12 months, but and that it's gonna come around now where you're gonna have to get out of the forbearance and see if you can get a loan modification, and if you can't get a loan modification, what's the options then, right? But just think about this: if you didn't have this, if you didn't focus your resources and got your forbearance agreement and stop paying certain things, like for instance, student loans, they had a moratorium. You didn't have to pay student loans. IRS installment agreements, they put in a moratorium in place, so you didn't have to pay those. And that was all of these moves were helpful to focus your resources on what's most important. First, taking care of your family and eating, right? And so but if I'm using all this money to try to keep a roof over my head, that's where the problem would rise. So I got to focus my resources on what was the most important. And now when things are going to change, maybe I'll be in a better spot. Maybe I can get a home modification, a loan modification, or something
I'd
else.
Like a home modification.
Well, you modify the whole
But
home.
there's no lumber.
That's true. That's true. Now the third step, recruit assistance. What I mean by that is go to the stakeholders, and I've worked with some restaurant owners and other commercial vendors who worked with their landlords, and they couldn't make the payments because they were out of business, right? So some of the landlords worked with them. I got to tell you, some didn't, right? I've helped some people in court where their landlords still bringing court action against them. There was a moratorium when it came to consumers, but not so much when it comes to businesses, right? They didn't have that moratorium, so they let people go to court and start suing businesses that weren't paying their rent. And of course, these businesses were hurt because of the coronavirus as much as an individual is.
Well, that's coming to an end, though, Attorney Stephen Leahy. These moratoriums on evictions and
it's all coming to an end.
And foreclosures is coming,
I
and
agree.
it will hit all at once. The problem is, there's a federal government, and I don't mean to talk politics here, but it's just our life. Everything's political now, from that cup of water to the Hershey Kisses I just ate. But it seems like the federal government's just putting it all on, like, what is it? Like Wesley Snipes, bet it all on black, right? They're just like, hey, if we put all this money in the system right now, help all these people out, eventually when we open up the floodgates again, it won't be that bad. It'll be fine. It'll be okay.
I think they're wrong myself.
I mean, you're asking for a perfect storm. You're asking for a perfect storm.
I agree with that. And you see what's going to. Well, let me talk about the fourth thing.
I apologize.
And the fourth thing, right? The fourth step of full financial recovery is fight for the best outcome. So you might have to go to court. Go to court and fight them. Okay, I've proposed the impossible, that it's as a defense, impossibility as a defense, and that could be a defense in your case. Maybe it was impossible for you to pay it, and we can prove it. Okay, well, that might be a good defense for some of these actions that are coming after.
What are some of the ways, again, for strategies when you're trying to prove that it's impossible? How complicated can that get?
It depends on the judge, actually, right? So you got to prove that the income, that I didn't have any income. Well, first off, if I could prove I didn't have any income, well, it becomes pretty clear that it was impossible for me to make payments through no fault of my own. And there's a lot of precedents out there. There's a lot of cases, especially goes back to World War II, when the government would come in and take over a company, and they had contracts with other companies, and the other companies said, well, wait a minute, you've breached the contract. And they said, well, it was impossible. I couldn't perform on our contract because the government came in and made me do other things, and they wouldn't let me perform on that contract. And that's where this whole impossibility really took light, where in World War II. But there's been other evidence. A good case was one in the western suburbs where a gentleman sold land to the municipality. And part of the deal of the land was that within 10 years they would build a frontage road for this gentleman. And and the contract said, if you don't build it within 10 years, you got to give me the land back. Well, what happened was the state of Illinois came in and took over the building of the road, and the state of Illinois didn't build the road. right? And so the guy said, well, it's 10 years. The contract says I get my money. I mean, I get my land back. Give it back to me. And the lower court said, yeah, he's right. Look at the contract. The contracts, there are those who believe the contracts always prevail. You can never, there are no impossibility defense. A lot of courts believe this. But when it went up to the appeal said, wait a minute, it wasn't the municipality's fault. The state of Illinois came in and said that they were going to do it and they didn't do it. So it's not their fault, but then he gave them time to perform and didn't let them take the land back. So that, but again, these are good precedents for people who have lost and they're going to be sued. And maybe you have a defense of impossibility. It was impossible for you to perform. And so you could be excused from the obligation to perform, or maybe given more time to perform. And that might be a good remedy for you. But another things you might, when I say fight for the best outcome, maybe you have to go to bankruptcy court. Nobody wants to file bankruptcy, but sometimes bankruptcy is the fastest, easiest way to get out of this problem. And that's exactly why we have these bankruptcy laws, right? To help people. Sometimes they're called a fresh start program. And who needs a fresh start after this COVID? Everybody needs a fresh start, right? And so you'd have to go through the bankruptcy program.
Sort of like a great reset.
Yes, kind of what they're trying to do with us. Next thing you might want to do is maybe they go into foreclosure, fight the foreclosure case, right? And then maybe work with them to get a loan modification. And maybe that's a good way to resolve this and get yourself out of the problem. Now, to get a loan modification, you're going to have some money, right? You're going to have some income enough to pay your mortgage. If you don't have enough income to pay your mortgage or the taxes and the interest or the insurance, you're never going to be able to get a loan modification. But, so that's why my friend David Hochberg always talks recently. So if you've been in a forbearance for 12 months now and you have equity in your home, maybe it makes sense now to sell your home now while the market's on fire, right? And then move into a rental if you can, right? But maybe if you don't have the income, then it's best to probably fight the foreclosure, because that's going to take a year or longer. And maybe you can get on your feet in a year or longer, and then we can protect you from any deficiency through a bankruptcy or some other action. Maybe the federal government takes some actions like they did in 2008 and the meltdown in 2008, and they protected homeowners from that deficiency judgment and the 1099-C that we talk a lot about on my show, the IRS Radio Hour. Cancellation of debt, correct. And so right now, if you get the debt canceled, you're going to be obligated to pay taxes on that. But there was a period of years where the IRS said that they waived that. You didn't have to pay taxes on that forgiven debt, but they've taken that away. But maybe they put that back on, and that would be a big help for a lot of people.
Well, I know that everything that the current administration is doing right now is really helping people, right? They're really working with people to make sure that, that their taxes aren't going to be raised, or that we can really keep the lights on, the gas pumping, or
I get your drift, since they are raising taxes and everything else.
Well, I mean, understandably so. There's
they got to pay this billion.
Somebody's got to pay the bill.
Trillions. I almost said billions. It's trillions of dollars. Yes. I saw some meme the other day said, "Please don't tell the Democrats what comes after a trillion." Okay.
Oh yeah, no.
Because they just found out what a trillion was, and they're using it like crazy. So we're only at 1 or 2 trillion. Wait till they get to 10 trillion, 20 trillion. Then we start talking about real money, right? This is what the problem is. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to let you know, it's part of my job, I think, is to let you know what's out there and to bring your attention to these things. It's important. Okay, because again, I like to think I have my pulse on these actions, because I get all this as an attorney in this field. I read a lot about it. I'm given a lot of emails. And I still don't hear about all these. But again, we talk about about that program here in Lake County. I didn't hear about that until last Saturday, and Now I don't have any tenants. If I had tenants, I probably would have been looking for something. But I could tell you, I know that in Cook County they have these. In the city of Chicago, they have these funds. So wherever you live, they have these programs. So you might have to search them out. The best way to call is call your representative.
I mean, this is kind of what we've been talking about for 7 years on the radio station. Is that, there's so many times where people just think that, okay, that's it. I'm going to just do a chapter 13. And they don't know any different. They don't know anything. They don't know that there's other options out there, other strategies that you can invoke.
And sometimes there's not, but
everything's situational. But what we've said before, sometimes filing that chapter 13 isn't for you. You've made a wrong decision there.
Well, I agree with that, and it does happen, especially with Chapter 7 sometimes, and where you maybe don't qualify and you think you should, because people don't understand what the rules are, and sometimes it could be very devastating if you file a Chapter 7 and they start coming after you. And I've helped a lot of people in that very situation where that the trustees decide that you have more money and they start going after you.
Listen, there are rules. This isn't Vietnam, okay?
But it does get complicated, and so anyway, get good help. And this is what I would tell everybody: if you have taxes and you're thinking about bankruptcy, be very careful, because not all taxes are dischargeable in bankruptcy, and some of them will be. And it's a timing thing, so you better understand exactly what that timing is, and then do a thorough analysis of where you are, how old that debt is, when it was assessed against you. This is kind of fundamental, rudimentary, but so many people don't do it, and a lot of lawyers don't do it. I think, and because they don't really understand the rules either, and especially if they're practicing outside their normal area. So a lot of times, especially when things are rough like they have been, lawyers start picking up cases that they, just anybody that comes in, even though if they're not very familiar with it. And so, bankruptcy is one of those areas that every lawyer thinks, oh, I could just file this case for you and get paid, and make it and get paid for the case. But that could be a problem for the debtor, and that would be, that's the client. It's very difficult for the client because the attorney doesn't really understand. It might be a problem.
Can I just give that phone number to get a hold of you? It's at 312-664-6649. This isn't an infomercial.
You know what I'm missing? Jim? I'm missing.
Let me look up here.
I'm missing lower thirds and my name and other things to identify us better rather than just putting us on the screen.
Oh yeah.
But I should probably have.
But this is episode 2.
I should probably have
3.
I should probably have Open Tax Advocates up there. Up on some as a
right here on the bottom,
like a transparent
this
somewhere.
Would be cool. But this is awesome. I mean, this is really you've come a long way.
Well, it again, as you know, I've been building this for some years, and I'm not being facetious about that, and I'm not exaggerating, because it takes a long time to figure all this stuff out. Jim and I've been on the radio for 7 years, and
6 for me.
Well, I was broadcast. We were recording the show from the very beginning. I started recording the show, and then we started streaming the show. So we've been streaming, got to be 5 years, right?
Oh man,
got to be 5 years, maybe 4 years that we've been streaming the show.
It was after the election. It was
after Trump.
It was after the Cubs won the World Series. I know that.
After 16.
Yes,
is that right?
It was after 16.
Why do you remember that?
Because I remember going live with you in the studio, and there's a picture of me and you, and I have my Cubs jersey. This is right after. It might have been during the playoff run.
Playoffs.
But because we were like, we need Cubs games. We got to get this TV on in here. That's when we had to run and turn on the board. It's like, nobody's here. Oh, SCTV is on the air. But no, it was 2017 where we started live streaming, really, and hitting it. I mean, we started live streaming on an iPhone.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was,
the iPhone,
because that's what I was recording on.
And then you're like, well, let's plug it in here. It's like, okay, well, that works. And that's how
that Facebook let you go.
Oh, actually, really went for production.
I think we were going to YouTube first. Well,
we did the YouTube, that I created the Facebook pages, especially for the Trust Radio. That's when we really started streaming.
That was 2 years ago.
Was Trust Radio.
I think is this our second season or we're in the second season.
This is three.
I
This
think
is year 3.
Is that right?
We started 2018.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
We did 2018. If you read the book. But no, we started in 2018.
All right, well,
The end of it, like November. But again, this whole streaming
did start in
thing,
November.
it takes a while. It takes a while to get all this going. Rome wasn't built in a day.
well, and then you have to learn how all this equipment works. So I could tell you that it's in March of last year, actually probably April after Easter, when the church asked me to start streaming Sunday Mass for a couple of weeks, which is now it's a year.
Yeah.
I've been doing streaming the
It's like
Mass.
a government program.
But I started using my iPad because that's how I used to produce this.
Yeah.
And that malfunctioned. And so then I got this computer and I started using Studio 6. Studio 6 is the software that I use now. That's the switches, the video switches to move from one to another. And so that's about a year that I've been learning this
You know what
software.
I've learned is that there's a million different open source softwares, not just but
OBS.
OBS, but also there are other It's like when you get involved in anything, there's now you used to say to yourself, used to be one thing, right? There used to be you're kind of just everybody's corralled into one, learn it, okay, fine, and then all of a sudden you pick up a floppy disk and then you add the next update. But now it just updates goes crazy, and you're like, what is going on here?
Well, I think it was what I was mentioning to you before. It's like you don't learn how this stuff works until you get the emergency, right? So I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago we had a guest on and it crashed, right? The system crashed, and I lost all my templates and everything, and so and I get kind of verklumped.
Remember that one time though where we had the cameras wouldn't work at all, and it was like we were down for like an hour and a half, and our guest's like, okay, well, kind of got it. Are we gonna start the show? It's like,
did we ever recover from that? I don't remember. Well, I mean, we covered, but not that day.
What we did is we put up the phone. We put up the phone and we recorded some segments.
Okay, so
you got it. Hey, listen, you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do. And I still get these. I still get these emergencies that come up. Stuff the camera won't work or whatever it is, or sound. So I hit the wrong button. Hey, like today, I didn't hit the sound right because we were doing
the intro, and
I don't think the intro ever went out. So maybe that's a problem. Let me see if we can.
Did it fade out?
No, I don't think it ever went out. Let me see.
I like this. We're gonna figure this all out together, all of us.
So let me.
But that's the problem with live stream. You can't figure it out until you're streaming. It's like, how did the TV stations ever do it?
Well, that's why I always I always liken it to WGN in the 50s, right? They had like 5 guys that worked there. They did every show by themselves. Bozo was on Bozo, and he was on Fraser Thomas and Ray Rayner. They did all the shows together. They did all the shows.
The height of being a cameraman was probably the 60s, 50s, 60s, a little bit in the 70s. Because when you're doing sports games, you don't really have to follow the ball. You can't even really watch the TV. It looks all kind of goofy and kind of.
Right, so let's play the beginning.
Where'd you get this?
I made this.
Where'd you get the L?
Well, I got that I'm fully licensed. I didn't steal this from anybody. I use all the licenses.
How did you get that?
That was, you want me to tell you where I got that? I got that from Shutterbug. Shutterstop. What is it?
Shutterstock? Wait,
Yeah,
no, Call to Action?
Yeah, that was on I went on Shutterstock, said call to action, and that came up. And then I found this. This was a free
now let's
one.
transform it with the audio.
This was I don't think they can hear me still. They can hear us.
I don't know.
I think they can hear us.
sure?
Yeah, they can hear us.
Comment below if you can hear us.
They can hear us. But anyway, that's the.
I like the music. I like the clapping. It makes me want to clap and like have a good time.
Actually, I'll tell you why I like that. I got that music from Adobe stock,
That was by the Jefferson
and I paid
5.
and I pay the and I'm paying the I paid the license for that too. I didn't want it. I really wanted to use the Park Avenue beat from Perry Mason that we use on our show. But when we're at the show, they pay a fee. The station pays a licensing fee, so we can use that music there. But I did a search for the copyright, and I could not find the copyright that it was copyrighted. So I was going to go ahead and use it, but YouTube has a program on there when you're creating on YouTube. You go in and ask them if it passes copyright laws, and I did that with this, and it said that it wasn't copyrighted. But then I found the copyright, and it turned out that there is a copyright still on it. Some music from that era is not protected. It's in the public domain, but this one was still protected, so I couldn't use it. And so that music there that I used, I hear it all the time on America's Voice, and they play that music all the time.
Their music?
No, it's not their music. Obviously, they got it from Adobe stock
stuff.
too.
Yeah,
No, it's not free. They pay the licensing fee, but they can't use it either, right? They can't just use any music they want.
So I went to school.
I went to school too
for broadcasting.
I know you did.
And when I was a DJ, my freshman year, I had a heavy metal show.
Did you spin
called
discs?
Shock and Awe. That was what I called it. Yeah, it was terrible. All right, everybody. Did you like that? Dude, that's how it was. Did you like that Ripper tune? Here's another one from Metallica. It's like, oh, cool. But the point is, like, you had to put it into a spreadsheet of the song you played, and then they every week sent it out to the record company and would charge them
for the music that
for
they
the
play.
music that we played.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was like
And
something
that's
like 10 cents to play it
and
on
that's
the radio.
and that's where they get that. They have an agreement with them, and they have to account for all the different.
Well,
music.
I don't know if they had an agreement with like
No, there's
Megaforce Records, which
No,
is
no,
like,
no,
you know,
they
like I
have
was
the-
playing some pretty deep cuts.
they have it from the association, and the association represents them, and you pay the association, and the association
pays it, and then you
divvies
end
the
up
money
getting
out. So you don't have to go to, and that saves you from going to each individual artist and
that
saying, "Hey,
makes
can
so
I use
much
this
sense.
music? Can I use it?" So and it helps the artist because it's hard to find them.
Can you crank up the individual master volume on this for the broadcast?
Yes, is
Can
it
you
too?
just turn it up just a little
Is
bit?
it-
I've read a few comments saying that.
Well,
it might be a little low.
I have two, and I thought I turned it up. So I have. Let me see if it's today. You read those?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's. Oh, you know what? Let's turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up. Make it louder than hell.
Turn up the radio.
Okay, so now it's at the top, so it should be.
Ooh,
better.
the top might be too much.
No, I see. It's not in the red.
That's good. Red's,
but I did
good.
turn it up.
But yeah, though that was interesting being a DJ in high school, or in not high school, in college. I thought that was going to be my calling, radio DJ.
Well, you're kind of doing radio, not DJ.
Not
you're not.
DJ.
You're
I'm
not.
not
You're not
spinning
spinning discs. But you're still on the radio, and
Yeah, boy. I just spin discs. You know who that is? It's Flava Flav.
Yeah.
The guy with wears the big clocks. Where's he from?
Oh, so-
Man, if you know in the comments, say below. Say, Jimmy, you're an idiot. Flava Flav is from blank.
I like that. Like that just went out on me, but it came right back because I'm using the
That's so cool.
Canon T3i, and the Canon T.
Oh yeah, that thing just turns on.
The Canon T3i was not made for streaming. Although that's why I bought it to do. I tried to do streaming with this. Because we were using the phone, and so I bought this, and it turned out that I didn't have enough space on there, so it would turn off after. And at the time, I would only record the segments. So I would record a segment, turn it off, record.
Remember that we would record the segment. We would put it on the.
Turn it off.
Turn it off and turn it back on.
And Debbie always say, "Did you record it? Did you hit the button?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go hit the button, turn it back on.
Yeah.
So we record the segments separately, and but even that, there wasn't enough. It only would go like 6 minutes, and some of our spots are 10 minutes. So it would always turn off on me. It got very frustrating to use this camera, but I put it up on this cam. When we put this together, another thing that when you try to stream with this camera, it puts all of the information on the lens. Like if shows you all how where the lights are and all that. It showed that on there. So there's a program called Magic Lantern, and the Magic Lantern is a supplement to the driver that's on your camera. You don't think about your camera having software on it, but of course they do, right? So this is a free Magic Lantern is a free addition that puts it on. So that's why it works much better. Now, so often it does flip on and flip off, but it used to flip off and never turn back on. So now it turns off, flips off, and flips back on.
Why does it turn back on now?
I don't, because Magic Lantern. Why does it turn off? Because it's a T3i and not a
T3J.
No, it's an I. It's totally
the I.
It's totally an I.
It's the
I. So I don't know. But this is good. This is good advice. About turning it up and making sure that you can hear it. That's my.
Again, this is a work in progress. Rome wasn't built in a day. The Mona Lisa wasn't painted in one hour. This takes time. This is an effort.
It does take time, and
but I think what the coolest thing, Attorney Stephen Lee, I think we're going to create another Facebook page so that we can get people to listen to the Call to Action show and talk about these issues around the Chicagoland area and have this podcast a few times a week.
Well, and that's my goal. Is like I want to get the word out to people that about trying to recover from COVID and how to do it. And again, it's going to take action. You're going to have to do something. It's not going to happen without some effort. But you can't. Too many people who have financial problems. As they. I think this is. If we show this.
What's that?
This is my.
I feel like I'm Batman turning his head into like.
This is our.
Can't even turn his neck around. He's got to turn his whole body.
So here's a video.
That's right, citizen. What are you putting on? What are you trying? Up. There's a lot of reverb here.
There is, yeah. It's not playing it either.
That's fine. We don't need to do that.
But I wanted to show this because this is where Chuck, with the video of Chuck who says he wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because people who are having financial problems, they give up and they just get depressed and they don't do anything about it. And then, life it'll take you over. Right? So you have to get up and take action. And so there are things you can do. And I think if you go to fullfinancialrecovery.com, watch that video. Let's
say that one more time. Fullfinancialrecovery.com. Go over there, take a look at the great
maybe the next episode I'll bring it up and we'll watch the video. And I can put it on like I did the introduction here on the show.
Can we do a Mystery Science Theater too and have a background of watching movies?
Yes, and we can just talk about it. We could sit in the movie theater.
Be very witty and stuff.
We could sit in this movie theater and do it.
Oh. But they assign seats now.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I haven't been.
That is true.
You did say that, but I don't know.
I know you don't know it's true, but it is true. They assign seats, and it's ridiculous.
I saw that. I don't like that.
I don't like that either. It's a movie theater. I got yelled at some lady for this. I was like 2 seats over, and I was sitting in her seat. She goes, "Excuse me, you're in my seat." And I was like, "There's nobody in the aisle." I'm like, "Miss, you kidding me right now? There's a whole aisle available everywhere." She goes, "This is my seat." And starts kind of yelling. I was like, "You ever been to a movie theater before? What? Did you pay extra for this seat? No, we all paying extra for these seats." Well, then I moved 2 over. It's like, "No, there you go. Here you go. Here you go. 2 seats.
It's not her
Congratulations. Fault. It added to the. No, it's just people that really read deep into things and they don't. That it's just like, how do you tie your shoe without reading a manual?
I understand.
It's like this kid say, I'm at the I was buying groceries. I go over to Mariano's. I'm sitting there and the girl is going, I need somebody. I need 21, please, 21. And I'm sitting there for 5 minutes. Nobody can help this girl. It's like, okay, well, why are we putting kids on the register? Okay, let's try to create a law here saying that they can do this. But anyway, girl who's 21 comes over, rings her up, and she looks at the lady, who is, let's just say she did not look, she looked like you didn't need to check her ID. And the girl goes, date of birth. And the lady goes, oh, I don't have my ID. And she goes, I need your birthday, ma'am. And it's like, put it 1945. Jesus Christ, move it on. What are you going to do? Check her ID? Like, Jesus.
Well, they do check IDs. They
check the social security number while you're at it.
They check my ID all the time.
Just type in a random date and get her out of here.
Well, they might check my ID because I look so young. Maybe that's why.
Well, that's you do have like the skin tone.
Youthful.
Yeah, it's the youthful skin.
I understand. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm not that youthful. Oh boy. I'm looking at the CPU usage. Let me see. That's very high.
Your CPU usage.
Yeah, we only usually go to like a 20, and it's at 100%. Maybe because I got.
Oh, that's good.
No, it's not good. You don't want to use that much. It's close.
Probably why it's hotter than a pistol in here.
It probably is. Yes. So it's probably.
That's probably why your
So I don't know what's going on.
computer is running pretty hot.
Yeah. So I'm at 94%. It went down.
Okay, that's good. 94. Are you mining Bitcoin? That could be it. If you're a Bitcoin miner.
Or a Bitcoin major. So anyway, we're going to sign off so I can go home and get something to eat.
That's right. I got to go too. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, remember, Open Tax is there for you. 312-664-6649. Again, stay tuned for more great content, especially coming this week. We have great guests. Dave Schwanner on the Trust Radio Network is going to be with us. Attorney Stephen Leahy, you fired up for that conversation?
I am fired up for that.
He's a returning guest. We also have some great conversational topics on the IRS Radio Hour. What are we going to talk about this week?
Don't know.
No, because usually by midweek we kind of sit down and get it all.
Because I always talk about what happened in the office, and it's only Monday, so nothing's happened in the office yet. So that's part of the.
That's what we need to change.
I agree with that.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in.
Can I use the exit for the entrance?
Yeah.
The entrance for the exit?
Yes. It's all the same.
Okay. We'll do that. Goodbye. It's not really going.
Yeah, you gotta I'll be your Jamie.
Let's start it over again.
Sorry for the people. See how robust.
I hope it sounds better. I think it sounds better online. I told you to do it.
Write a guitar?
Yeah, I said it.
So why I got some friends that
What do you mean? You never asked me to write a guitar song.
I said we could because we need the music. I told you that.
Why did you send me this? It's in Rosati's. It's in Rosati's. There's a reason why I didn't.
I understand.